we go. Yeah, I'm recording. So, welcome to this workshop on TBL, task-based learning. Um, I believe that all of you already know about this methodology. So I won't go deep on what it is in terms of, you know, um, theory, and I will try to give some examples. And as I was building this presentation, I thought that this would be um, a great idea to show this presentation to some of the teachers that we work with, because some of them uh, have some misunderstandings in terms of what TBL is and how to implement it. Um, well, we will see as the presentation goes on. So let's go. Before we start, take a look at these pictures and try to recall these situations from your life, okay? They represent um, riding a bike and swimming. So I would like that you share with me um, how was the way you learned to swim and how to ride a bike? How did you learn to swim or ride a bike? If anyone can share that with everybody.
Um, I learned to swim when I was very, very little. I
Mhm.
don't remember really very much, but I do remember how I learned how to ride a bike.
Okay.
And I remember my father pushing me
Mhm.
and taking off the wheels so that the training wheels, so that I would just start
Yeah.
riding. And it took a lot of practice because I was very much afraid of falling. But after a while, I learned.
Yeah, sure. So you were given the bike just right away. So this is your bike, go, right?
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
you. Anybody else would like to share any moment like when you learned how to swim or ride a bike?
I remember when I learned to swim, I was about her age, and I was taught by a sports teacher.
Right,
And it was kind of easy, I think, but I had a lot of support,
right,
starting floating first and then moving head, arms and legs, and starting crawling and crawling after that.
right.
So it was quite nice to me, and I kept swimming for a long time. I like it very much.
Right. So Alejandro, do you remember that if in the first lesson or your first attempt to swim, you just jumped into the water, you were in the water? Um,
No, what I remember was that we were taught some, and we were given some instructions
right?
on sand. So the idea was to start making the same movements
Mhm.
in water after.
All right.
That is what I remember.
Okay. All right. So sort of like to mimic what it would be like being inside the water. All right. Great. So now that we share these moments of learning how to ride a bike or swim. Uh, those are skills, okay? So learning a language is also learning a skill. So just like riding a bike, swimming, cooking, playing an instrument, you learn by doing, okay? And as Luz and Alejandra shared, they started doing it, learning it at a very young age. So the sooner we start doing it, the better, right? So research has proven that the sooner you start learning a language, more than one language, the better, because our brain is just like a sponge and we're absorbing everything that uh, is coming to us, right? Now, would reading a book about swimming be helpful? Would have been it helpful for you, Alejandra or Luz? What about reading a book about learning how to ride a bike being helpful at a young age? No, right?
Not
So,
No,
at
it's
all.
funny. It's
right.
funny to think about it.
Yeah, so just as learning how to ride a bike or swimming in TBL, Language is learned by using it in real communication, not just by learning theory. You are pushed in the sort of real situation from the real world. You try to mimic that situation. Okay. Uh, like when you go to swim, just go into the water. When you learn how to ride a bike, you're giving a bike and you start um, trying. Okay. So in terms of definition, TBL is an approach to language education in which students are given functional tasks. Okay, so I'm highlighting some concepts here um, uh, because they are key. Um, so they are given functional tasks that invite them to focus primarily on meaning exchange and to use language for real world and non-linguistic purposes. Okay, before I continue, is this definition clear to you? Is there anything that you don't quite understand? Something that you're doubtful? No? Okay. Well, um, from my experience, I can say that finding a functional task sometimes becomes problematic for some teachers because they are not able to identify what a function is considering any grammatical structure, for example, like what you use the present simple for example, what you use present perfect for, trying to find a function for it. Sometimes it becomes problematic for some teachers, but some others it's not. Okay. So let's continue. Now, this is a question for you. What should be the core of the syllabus or the curriculum if we want to implement TBL in our as part of our a daily basis in terms of teaching? Option one, should we focus on grammar rules, particular words, for example, teach first conditional, simple past, blah blah blah. Or option two, task with the focus on real life purposes and situations, for example, making suggestions, writing a complaint, planning a trip. What would be the core, what should be the core if we want to implement TBL in our daily basis teaching? Option one or option two? Option two, right? We're focusing on functions, okay? Making suggestions. We know that behind the function of making suggestions, probably there are some key expressions, some modal verbs, the same as writing a complaint. This is something that we do for real. If we are not happy with any service, for example, we may write a letter, we may call someone and use certain vocabulary to do that, okay? Usually in a formal way, for example. So many different elements that are part of grammar and vocabulary, but are hidden in this function. Okay. All right. Now, how does TBL differ from traditional teaching methods? Okay. Do you know? Without reading that, any ideas on how teaching?
Uh,
Yeah,
Maybe
please.
apart from the things that are mentioned here,
Mhm,
I would add it's done in groups,
mhm.
so it's less traditional than individual learning. Um, yeah, I would say that, right?
Okay.
And maybe teachers are not so invested in correcting grammar rules,
Right.
but rather in students being able to communicate what they want to say.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Well, as it says there, language is not taught directly, okay, but learners learn naturally by performing tasks instead, okay? Usually it's done in pairs or in groups, as Luz mentioned. And the focus here is on meaning, not on form, okay? Now, are we clear when it says that we focus on meaning and not on form? Is that clear to you? Yeah, right.
Like,
Okay.
does it refer to not correcting students?
Not really. When we talk about form, the form of the language, we're talking about the grammar, the rules, okay, the structures, okay. As I said before, the focus is not that, but it's meaning. And what it means is that the focus is what we use the language for, okay, the functions, okay. As in the previous slide, like writing a complaint, giving suggestions, giving advice, recommending something, okay, that's the meaning, what we use language for, okay. Um, and the pictures represent like what would be like, a student completing a worksheet, filling in the gap, reading and answering, you know, true or false, something like that, versus someone producing, this is a poster about your own life, something like that. Okay, right. Um, okay, here we have two examples. Once again, two options. Um, So question for you, which of these would be part of a TBL lesson? So let's take a look at these two options. Number one says you're going to describe one of your favorite films. First, read the questions and make notes. So there are some questions on the right. What kind of film is it? For the actors, where's the set, etc. Then work, group work. Which film would you like to watch out of, you know, whatever the group suggested and why. Okay, that's option one. Number two, you're going to describe a movie that you like. Use defining relative clauses, using who, which, that, and where to describe the actors, the plot, and your recommendations. Okay, so question for you. Which of these would be part of a TBL lesson? Number one, number two. Alejandro says one. Yes. Yeah. Carla says one. Okay. Okay, let's see. Yes, because that is a task and this is an exercise. Okay? Now, do you know the difference between a task and an exercise? No, I see some like what? Faces? Yeah?
In an
Are they the
exercise,
same?
what you do is make students practice the
Yep.
vocabulary or the
Mhm.
grammar function.
Right. Excellent. So it's like going to the gym. What do you go to the gym for? To do some exercises. Okay. So when we ask our students to complete worksheets, we're sending them to the gym and do the same thing over and over. Okay. Whereas the task, we're going to see the definitions later, involves producing something. Okay. So what's a task? Okay. The primary focus should be on meaning once again. So go back to the previous slide. The meaning is to describe, okay, your favorite movie. Okay, that's the use of the language, right? Then there should be some kind of gap, okay, some problem, okay, that students should solve by themselves in pairs or in groups. Okay, so the gap is key here, a problem to solve. Okay, so I need to convey information, okay, to express an opinion or infer meaning probably, and that is what we see here in in the first in the task. Okay, they need to describe first, and then they have to decide like which would be the film that they would like to watch, what would be more interesting for them. Okay, then in any task, learners should largely have to rely on their own resources. Okay, so they are giving some instructions on what they have to do, what they have to complete in a given amount of time, and then use their own linguistic and probably non-linguistic resources in order to complete the activity. Okay, so compared to what appears on number two, they still need to describe a movie, but using certain, a certain framework. Okay, they have to use who, they have to use which, they have to use that, etc., in order to complete the exercise. If you take a look at the task, There is no instruction in terms of what type of language they have to use. Okay, they need to use their own resources, whatever they have available. Okay, so that's why some teachers, or it is said that in TBL, there's more freedom in terms of language instruction. Okay, it's not that framed. Okay, and there is a clearly defined outcome other than the use of the language. Okay, so an outcome is a product. It's the product in the task. Okay, we have the description of the film, the discussion, that's another product, and the reasons why they are choosing this particular movie. Okay, if we compare this with the exercise, it's just you have a description of the movie, but you're just practicing the language. Okay, up to here. Any questions? Something that you would like to say or ask?
I'd like to just comment how useful it is to make a difference between a task and an exercise that I guess refers more to drilling, to practice,
Yeah, exactly.
and to real production. So yeah, thank you for that because it wasn't really clear for me. So
Mhm. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, as Luz Pamela was saying, this is something that is confusing sometimes for teachers because some teachers are not able to identify like what is a task, what is an exercise, are they the same, are they different, etc. So thank you for clarifying that. Paola, you have a question there?
Yeah. It's a task. You can have a task with a lot of exercises. So exercise is part of a task. That's my question. I'm not sure.
Well, if we are thinking about implementing this in a real classroom, um, we should have done many different exercises. Reading, completing sentences, going little by little. Okay, exercising like going to the gym. Okay, um, and probably after lesson, I don't know, 5 6 whatever, once the students are ready, that they have built, this scaffold thing, they're ready to complete the task. They're ready, for example, to run a real marathon or climb a real mountain. Okay, so by performing a task, students will use the resources that they have available. Okay, everything that they acquired before, right? Yeah.
Okay,
So I
thank
will
you.
give some more examples. Probably it's going to be clearer in the following with the following slides. Okay, Alejandra.
You know, I was thinking, and it reminds me about when you start teaching students and scaffolding vocabulary
Mhm,
and activities to describe a city, right?
mhm,
You start with the vocabulary of the city places, then you go up with the prepositions, and then you start using, a function like, with questions, how do I get to,
mhm.
and after that you make your students to describe a city which will they would like to go. I don't know if that's a good example or not, but it came to my mind.
Yeah. Well, sometimes exercises are hidden in the form of a task, like in this example, because it looks like I mean, in number two, we have a product, which is the description, but it's quite grammar driven. Okay, so you have to write the description using this type of clauses, using who, which, blah blah blah. Okay. Now, what you were mentioning, Alejandra, I think it's a sort of uh, exercise in a form of a task, okay? Because it is very guided, okay, compared to a task which is freer, right? Okay, so in order to know whether we are dealing with a task or an exercise, we can have a checklist, okay? This is something quite useful we can share with our teachers. So is the focus on meaning exchange? So are the students trying to communicate or and not to practice a set of language items? Yes or no? Okay. Is there a gap? Is there a problem that students have to solve? Okay. Will they be interested to listen to their partners? Yes or no? Okay. Are the students free to use whatever language they want to complete the task? Probably that is answering your question, Alejandra, right? Or not. Okay. Does the task have a clear purpose? Okay. Do students know why they are doing the task? Okay. So the task also has to have a purpose. So go back to this um, task. They have to describe a film. They have to, share their description, but always having a purpose because they need to choose one, okay, and say why. Okay, so that would be the purpose. Okay, yeah, I think someone is writing something here. Oh, Luz says nice. Okay, um, okay, let's continue. Now in terms of stages of a TBL lesson, um, we're going to say like what will be the number of stages or the name of them. Um, do you know how many stages do we have in a TBL lesson? No, Luz says no, Paula says no, 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 no.
Yes, I know.
Okay,
I
how
don't
many?
know them. I think that, I mean, I don't know them all, but there is the pre-task, the task that has like 3 stages in that.
Right,
And then it has the use of language, which is like the post-task.
right, excellent. Well, according to different authors, you may have three different parts, three different stages, and sometimes those stages could be divided into stop stages. Okay. Yep. So let's stick with our example. You're going to describe one of your favorite films, blah blah blah. Um, and then they're working in groups. Okay, and they decide on one film and say why. Okay. So as Carla was saying, the task that the stage that we can identify are the pre-task, the task itself that is divided into two, and the post task that can have one of these options or the two options. Okay, now we're going to see what to do in each of them. Okay, so in the pre-task, we introduce the topic, we highlight useful words and phrases, we create interest, build motivation in our students. Okay, and as the name itself, we prepare the task, the students for the task, okay, preparation, okay? Then the main stage is the task, okay? So students do the task. It could be done in pairs or in groups, okay? Depending on what you're asking them to do. It can be even done in individually, right? Now, we students need some planning, okay? So that would be one stop stage. Students plan how they will present or report the outcome of the task, okay? So it's a lot of planning, maybe group discussion, brainstorming, uh, and then the report. Students report for the whole class, if you want to do that, or they go around and report to different groups, or they share with the partners, and we compare results, okay? And the post task, okay, is where we pay our attention to language after students have performed the task, sort of by themselves, with the guidance from the teacher. Um, but they are the main actors. So once that is done, we go into the last stage, post task. That can have a language analysis. Here, the teacher presents the language, okay, in the form of a text that can be a reading text, and an oral text, whatever, and it should be based on topic. What I mean by this is that if students are describing a movie, if I want to present key language, then I should present them a movie review, for example. Okay, if I want them to practice who, where, that, I should present that language on topic. Okay, it should be about movies. Shouldn't be about anything else that I find on the internet, right? And then language practice. So students practice the language with exercises after they have, worked, sort of discover what we use the language for. Okay. A diagram, it should look like this. Okay. Pre-task, the beginning, then the task that involves planning, the report, and the language analysis, the language practice. Okay. Any question after here?
Yeah, I have a
Alejandra?
question.
Okay, yes.
About the post task, the post part of it.
Right.
Because as you were presenting, I was kind of worried about when students would have the chance to, polish the language, right? Say polish. Because yeah, they can communicate maybe, but maybe at a very basic level, or maybe they lack the vocabulary. So I'm wondering about how that happens, that post task. Would it be like a more traditional kind of lesson, or would it be like sort of in a special kind of way, like a TBL type of way?
Yeah, well, if you ask me, the moments I have implemented TBL, as I said before, is after I have spent decent amount of time like teaching language, so the students have, well, already have some resources in terms of vocabulary and how to do certain things. Okay, I shouldn't. I mean, if you ask me, I wouldn't start with a TBL like at the very beginning, right, of a unit, for example, or if I don't know my students, right? That is the first thing. And when we talk about a TBL lesson, sometimes we need to be flexible. So probably you're not going to be able to, or students are not going to be able to complete the task and present and share everything that they've done in 90 minutes. So we should be flexible in terms that we could continue the following class, right? Now, how will you go about the post task? Yeah, it becomes a sort of more traditional kind of lesson because we focus on form in this case, okay? It would be ideal to use some of your, well, I'm suggesting here that you should provide something, but also you should pay attention and take some examples from what students have produced, okay? Um, in order to highlight what was done correctly, and in order to present some mistakes, some misunderstanding. Okay. So yeah, this last part should go a little bit more traditional uh, wise. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, Alejandro, I think you had another question there. No? All right. Let's continue then. Okay, some principles. Now we're getting more theoretical here. Um, Grammar is important, but comes later, as we saw in the example. Okay, it arises from meaningful communication. Okay, so after students perform the task, after they plan and report it. Okay, and as some author said, you get it right in the end. Okay, a second principle is that this type of lesson is student-centered. As we saw, the students are given the freedom to work in groups or in pairs. They plan, they report. The teacher can be monitoring, and they are receiving feedback, okay, as the teacher is monitoring, receiving feedback from their peers and from the teacher the moment they report, for example, okay? Students do the task, okay, for real purpose, not mechanical repetition, okay? So that is, it's important to highlight, okay? So first we need to identify a task, a product that is real, something that people use language for, and it should have a purpose. Like, why? Why am I building a poster? Why am I coming up with this, I don't know, summary, whatever they are producing, okay? A third principle is that task achievement increases motivation, okay? Um, Whenever students achieve or complete a task, it shows learners that learning English could be fun as it's done in groups, it's positive, and it could be a happy experience rather than just completing worksheets and showing my worksheet to the teacher to get, I don't know, a stamp at the end of the class or to get a mark or whatever, okay? It shows learners that English is used for something real, okay? Because I know and I understand that in many places, English is seen as studying rules and as completing exercises, right? And I don't think that anybody of us learned Spanish by completing worksheets, for example. Okay, nobody learned Spanish by completing worksheets, right? Or I mean, our mother tongue, right? Now, how do I know if my lesson succeed, right? This is something that you also need to ask yourself when you are a teacher and you're implementing whatever lesson, right? You can get a feedback from your own students, okay? They are the best, judges, right? This is an example of if you're willing to, reflect on your practice, okay, you can ask students, okay, you can build an exit ticket, okay. For example, ask them, what did you like about today's lesson, okay. They can answer in English or Spanish, whatever they feel more comfortable or confident with, okay, because there is sort of emotional element involved here, okay. What was challenging for you? How do you feel about having discussions with little support from the teacher? This is a question you can ask to, I guess, all the learners, right? Did you like it, or do you want to have more teacher control and help? Because some students are very used to, having a teacher in front of them and telling them everything that they have to do, right? So this is something that teachers could implement in order to, you know, assess their own lesson. Okay. I am providing some examples of tasks for the classroom. Okay, the first one in green says, imagine you arrive to New York or whatever city for vacation. You're at the central station, your phone runs out of battery, and you don't know how to get to your hotel. You ask someone to give you the directions that you need, and a kind person tells you how to get to a hotel. So students would need to, play the role of a visitor and a kind person and give direction. As you can see in the instruction, there is no grammar, vocabulary, expression given or suggested. Okay, they should infer, they should know what to use. Okay, um, and if not, then you will find out. Okay, Luz, you have a question there?
Yes. So from what you're saying, and from the previous slides,
Mhm.
I'm thinking probably, yeah, there is no like specific language that we are asking students to use because they should be they're supposed to learn that in the pre-task. Am I right?
Yeah, that is my suggestion. Well, it
Right.
will depend on the type of students that you have. Now, it is important to consider that most of the material that we may find in order to, like theoretical material and all that, is based on, is not based on Chilean students, for example, okay, that have a very limited lexicon, right, available. Okay, so that's what I say. I suggest to teach language, grammar, functions, etc., and then come up with the task. Okay. Okay, and in number 2, we have another example in the written form, and this is part of a Cambridge. I guess it's FC or PET. I don't remember. But it's a task. Okay, so you have received this email from your English-speaking friend, and your friend is asking, can you tell me about some of the places they could visit? So there is a problem here. They need to come up with a solution. Okay, again, there is no instruction in terms of grammar use, vocabulary use, but it's all hidden in this stimulus, right? Okay. Luz, you have a question there?
Yes, I was wondering about exercise number 2, write your email, because it's something that I usually do within my classes. And I don't know if you can give me, or maybe you girls, like an example of like a post post task, like for instance, like generally what I do is to show them like maybe an example of something that I've written before, or maybe like I tell them that it's like a random student, but it's like me, so I include like some mistakes in order to be like more realistic, so in that way they feel like more confident. But I don't know if that would be like a suitable post tag, because it's something that I'm already doing. But I don't know, guys, if you got any other suggestions regarding this topic, because like writing is not my cup of tea, so sometimes I struggle with that. I really would like to, either Jaime or you girls.
Okay. Yeah, I have some suggestions. I don't know if you girls have
I have
something
a
to
few
say.
ideas.
Oh, yeah, of course, looks familiar. Yes, of course.
I know. I have
Because
a few ideas, having taught writing for a while.
she was my writing teacher, so she was
Yeah.
with me at uni. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I think what you're doing is great, because you're showing some examples and not pointing fingers at anyone, that respects students' self-esteem, right, and motivation to keep going. So I think that's a good idea. What I would also add would be formulaic expressions for emails in this case. For emails or reports or different types of text, I would add some formulaic expressions like dear sir or madam, or different in different levels of formality. I would also um, add some key vocabulary that maybe they could use within email writing, and maybe a few rules, like an email should be short and to the point, very concise in English, and things like that. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, yeah. Well, I've been teaching writing for a long time as well. And yeah, when it comes to teaching writing, in this case, we're teaching a format. Okay, so as Luz said, when you look at a text without reading it, you can infer what it is. It's a letter, it's an email, it's a poem, it's an essay, right? So that's the first thing that students should know, like format, how it looks like, the different parts that it has. And there's key vocabulary as well for these different types of text. Okay, for a letter, for an email, for an essay, how to start, how to end. Okay, that's also key. And yeah, before you are able to write something, you should see first how it looks like. You should see examples. Okay, the more examples you see, the better. Okay, frequency is the key. And as they are, students are able to see different examples of what an email looks like, and they will, I mean, with your help, they can identify the different moves, like how you go from one section to the other. Okay. In terms of post tasks that you were asking, probably because in this particular example, students are required to use some modal verbs or suggestion expressions, right? So probably there will be some misuse when they write their own email. So that could be something that you could give feedback on, and probably drill with the use of modal verbs or how to give expressions, okay? Or reinforce the structure of an email, for example, okay? All right. Here we have, what's this? A task or an exercise?
Exercise?
An exercise, yes. So we're going to learn how to turn this exercise into a task, okay? As you can see, the context is shopping for food. Okay, so there is a shopping list from Mary, and we have the store, Abdullah's store. Okay, so in this exercise, and they're gonna work with a partner. One person is Mary, the other one is Mr. Abdullah, and they make conversations like this. Morning, do you have any oranges? So the person says yes or no, depending on the list. So that's an exercise, drilling, okay? Now, how do we turn this into a task? We can give student A some information. So you're going shopping at the store. Here is your shopping list. Put ticks next to the items on your list you can buy. And letter B, you own a store. Here's a list of items for selling your store. Find the items that students A ask for that you do not stock. So there is a problem there that they have to solve, okay? As you can see in the exercise, the students are giving the expressions. How to ask for food. Do you have any? Yes, I have some. No, I don't have any, okay? That is not given in the second example, okay? Now, is this a task? No, 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 no. Okay, let's read it. Look at this bag. Work in pairs. Make conversations like, is there a pen in the bag? No, there's not. Blah, blah, blah. Change roles, okay? So, does it focus on meaning? No, it focuses on grammar. The use of there is, the are, for example. Is there a communicative problem to solve?
Not really.
No, it's an information gap. I mean, no information gap. There's no problem to solve, okay? They're just practicing grammar. Is this something that resembles how to use language in real life?
No,
I
because
would
it's just
say that
repetition.
Yeah, repetition, Luz?
in my opinion, maybe the picture is something related to real life.
Uh-huh. And what about the use of the language? Is this is how we use language in real life?
Depends on the context, really. Like
Imagine
we
yourself
do
in this
use the race
situation.
and the rate.
Uh, Imagine yourself in this situation. You're going away, you have your suitcase almost done. Someone in your family is asking, is there, I don't know, a swimming suit in the back? Yes, there is. We, what I'm trying to say is that we don't communicate in this way. It's an artificial conversation, right?
Yeah,
Um,
unless you're making, you're preparing for a trip or something like that. It's a very specific moment.
yeah, but even though we do have this type of conversations when we go away, but we don't do it like as this list of questions, right? It means that we don't communicate in real life in this way, okay? And I'm sure that most of you have met people from, I don't know, native English speaker, and they don't go about saying, yes, there is, yes, I do, no, I don't, right? No, we don't communicate like that, right? Any linguistic outcome? No, just practice, just drilling, okay? So this is an exercise, not a task, okay? Um, there is some resistance from teachers, okay? But why is there uh, this? Some teachers feel unwilling to implement TBL. Luz,
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but can we go back to the previous slide because I really want to know, like, can we change the same exercise into a task? You know, I was thinking about maybe like the thing that you mentioned before, like you're going away with your family and your best friend, like talk about the things that each of you have like in your backpack or something like that,
mhm,
like I don't know if there is there are, or maybe you can use there is there are, but not like only
mhm,
because in here for me the problem is like it's just like yes no questions instead of maybe more like an open question. So
mhm.
I don't know, like would that be a way to change it into a task maybe, like,
Well,
and we like of course we don't use like the grammar chunks and but I don't know if you got any other suggestions for that.
okay, let's see. What can we do? Any ideas on how to turn this exercise into a task? The checklist on the left is helpful. I'm thinking just out of the blue, like you provide this context. Okay, you're going away with your partner. You're going to, I don't know, on beach vacation. So when you say beach vacation, there is a certain, there's a group of words or items, clothes that you may
Yeah,
need.
like a context.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
but you're not telling them, okay, you need to use,
Yeah, indeed.
sunscreen, swimming, whatever, you know?
Yeah. Or maybe you can ask them to like figure out the items, like essential items for
Yeah.
your holiday, something like that. Maybe that would be like that they will be communicating to solve the problem, which is like to
Yeah.
fill in the maybe, I don't know.
Right. So we need to turn an exercise or whatever situation into a sort of problem or a gap that they have to solve. Alejandra, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to add, well, thinking about the same question, is there a communicative problem to solve? Perhaps thinking about, oh, what are the activities we're going to do there? So what kind of things do we have to bring? Or
Hmm.
are we bringing or taking in our bags?
Right.
Perhaps,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you build this gap, okay, and students, with their linguistic knowledge, with their knowledge of the world, they should be able to identify the things they will need, right? Okay, let's continue. So as I was saying, some teachers resist um, because, and sometimes their managers or UTP bosses also resist to like implement this in the classroom. Sometimes, because they're more strict and they want everybody to follow the military seating arrangement all the time and having tests, written tests all the time, because we want to have good results and train them for whatever test they're taking in the future. And we forget about what learning a language is. As we said at the beginning, it's learning a skill you learn by doing. Okay, so TBL seems threatening sometimes. Okay, it is out of the teacher's comfort zone because it is quite easy, simple, not very demanding to build and print a worksheet, give it away, and have your students completing it. Okay, all concentrated, heads down, and then check. Okay, um, and sometimes it's hard to find a linguistic aim or function. What I mentioned at the beginning as well. Some teachers struggle a lot with um, identifying a language function assigned to a linguistic component. Okay, there are some more reasons why teachers they feel afraid, or maybe they need some more instruction. Okay, because probably for us it may sound quite natural because we deal with this type of topic all the time. And it becomes natural for us, but for some of the teachers that have spent many years teaching in the same way, it could be unknown. So they need some training, they need examples, they need to try this and see if it works, what to improve, and they need feedback as well. Okay, that is my impression. Well, some advantages and disadvantages of TBL. Let's see. Well, students' interaction is built into the lesson as they need to communicate. Students' communication skills improve, not only in terms of English, but they are able to talk to the partners, not they're not focusing on a computer or software screen all the time, or on a worksheet. They are talking to real people. Students' confidence can improve as tasks can mimic real life as well. Students' motivation can improve for the same reason. Students' understanding of the language can be more profound as it is used in realistic context. There are some disadvantages. Disadvantages if you're not clear about TBL. Okay, they're not disadvantages all the time. Okay, in order to implement TBL, you need some training, need some study. Okay, so tasks have to be carefully planned. Okay, to meet the correct criteria. It could be time consuming adapting, PPP, the exercises into task. Okay, we need scaffolding, as I said, in order to reach the TBL moment. Okay, students can avoid using the target language. That can happen. It's ideal that they communicate in English in order to plan and get to this final outcome. But we know and we understand that our Chilean student will rely on Spanish to complete the task. Okay. This happens if, or given the conditions that the tasks aren't well designed or well chosen, probably it's too difficult for them. Okay. Students aren't motivated. Students are too excited. That can happen to young learners. Okay. Or students feel lazy as well. So these aspects could go against your planning. Okay. And as a way to conclude, why is TBL important? It is meaning-based, okay, but it also offers opportunities to focus on language, as we said, at the end, towards the end of the lesson. Okay, it's motivating because it is relevant for learners' real-life needs. It involves learning by doing something real. Okay, Now, this presentation is too short in terms of the different aspects that implementing TBL means. So another workshop could be, for example, dealing only with problems when implementing TBL, correcting some misunderstanding, and assessment, how you assess students in a TBL context, okay? That could be part of further discussion, la discusión, as it says there, okay? Yeah, some references there, and that would be all for today. I don't know if you have questions, doubts, comments. Complaints.
Thank you, Jaime. It was amazing. For me, it was super clear. I've struggled a lot with the difference, like among PBL, because I'm so used to PBL that TBL, I don't know, like I'm so for me it's like it's difficult to do like the pre-while post because again I'm so used to PPP, PBL. So thank you, very. It was super clear.
Great. Alejandra?
Yeah, I will also have to thank you because of clearness, and it's very easy to understand the difference and how to apply it with the teachers, because sometimes they don't know how to use TBL and they tend to confuse, right? Make a confusion between a task and probably a project, they call it all the time,
Yeah.
where they ask students to make a poster or a role play, but the students don't know why are they doing it. They don't have a purpose, as you were mentioned, and at the end they feel like lazy, or they don't want to do it, and they have a laid back attitude about the task they have to do.
Yeah.
So it's very important to give students or provide students with the vocabulary they need, with the functions they need, so they could make and achieve the purpose of this TBL, right? And what I really see in my school is that students are very used to work with, these fill in the gaps exercises, reading comprehensions, which are, important to work with also. But at the end, they are not using the vocabulary. Students are not producing anything, right? So this is a very nice idea, or it has the approach that we need as teachers to give students or provide students with opportunity to use the language, written or spoken.
Yeah, at some point, as I said, because we need training, like going to the gym in order to run a marathon, okay? But we need to use the language for something real. Otherwise, we're just training our students to be expert at, completing a certain type of test, right? Yep. Luz?
Yeah, I wanted to sorry. Okay, I wanted to say that I guess the two main things that I really understood much better today were the different stages or parts of the TBL. Also, another thing that I take with me is the fact that there is a difference between a task and an exercise, and having learned that difference it makes a whole lot of difference when we want to implement this. Yep. So thank you for all that.
All right, I'm glad to hear those comments, and I'm glad that this workshop was useful for you. I don't know if we have any comments or questions. Otherwise, we're ready to go. I will stop the recording.